speaking of those Reds, we're getting lots of questions about Elly De La Cruz, and rightfully so. More so about, all right, what do we think about him for next season, and what has gone wrong? He has not hit a homer since July 31st. He was dropped to 7th in the Reds lineup here on Monday. He went 1 for 3 with 2 walks in this game. But since the start of August, this is now a 40-game stretch. He's hitting .208, 0 homers, 17 runs, 10 RBI, 6 steals, an OPS that is below 600. Lots of ground balls, only 5 barrels during that stretch. It's a 4.4% barrel rate. Apparently, he's been dealing with a quad injury for much of the season, and he's also seeing more off-speed pitches this year, and he just is not nearly as good against those as he is against fastballs. So what do you take from this? I mean, how do you feel about Elly De La Cruz? Where do you think he'll be drafted next year? What has happened?
He's not healthy.
It's probably
I don't think it's any more complicated than that. And if you don't believe it based on the way he's performed at the plate, well, he's got 35 steals after stealing 67 last season. And if you don't believe that's evidence that he's hurt, he's gone from one of the very best defensive shortstops in baseball, last season 98th percentile in outs above average, according to StatCast, to 11th percentile this season. His sprint speed has gone from 100th percentile, he was the fastest man in baseball last year, to 90th percentile. Still very fast, but every single thing that you could possibly look at shows that Elly De La Cruz has not been the same guy as last season. And so it's either he is 23 years old and he's just finished, or he's playing hurt. And I think he's just playing hurt. And look,
there are other outcomes than those two.
I think based on the evidence, he's hurt.
You're probably right. You're probably
He's
right.
hurt.
That's what it is.
And he has 1 home run in his last 313 plate appearances.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing is that this is not a guy with a huge margin for error as a hitter. Like, I think because his approach is still so raw and still so flawed, he has to be a supernatural physical talent to be an impact player. And playing at less than 100% is going to make it harder to do that. And I think that's just what it is that he just doesn't have a lot of ways that things can go right if he's not at 100%. And if you want to look at that from a 2026 perspective and say, other guys Francisco Lindor played through that toe injury earlier this season. He's still going to end up with 30-30. He's still going to end up with a huge season. He's still going to end up putting up more or less the same numbers. If you want to make the argument that, hey, Elly De La Cruz can't do that when he's less than 100%, I guess that's a reason to fade him, but I don't really see much reason to view Elly De La Cruz any differently right now than you did at the start of the season.
Well, I think it's also important to keep in mind first half of the year. Like, it's easy to fixate on the second half numbers, but first half, it looks like Elly De La Cruz had taken a big step forward as a hitter. His strikeout rate was below 25%. I think he hit 284 for the first half. He was a plus in batting average. So, I mean, long story short, he's going to be drafted later next year than he was this year, but I still have him 12th. So I still have him rounding out the first round for Roto Leagues next year. I just put together my top 24, subject to change, obviously. It'll probably change many times between now and March. But right now, Elly De La Cruz is 12th for me.
Yeah, I've not drafted a lot of Elly De La Cruz the last couple of seasons, and if he's going to fall to the back half of the first round or first half of the second round, I'm going to draft a lot of Elly De La Cruz next season because that feels like a nice value to be able to get for a guy that was a top 4 pick in most drafts this year. Yeah, I'll take that.
Roto.
Yeah,
I think mostly NFBC he was top 4.
Yeah, like
he wasn't far off from that.
In category leagues, he was a top 6 player drafted.
Yeah,
pretty consistently. I guess the other outcome here, Chris, which you didn't mention, is that he's just really streaky, and maybe he's just been slumping in the second half for a really long time. But I think it's more likely that this quad has kind of derailed his season. You pointed out the defensive metrics that have come down, the speed has come down. I think there are still obviously warts in his game. He's still really, really bad against lefties, right? And that's, I don't know if maybe he should just kind of ditch switch hitting or whatever it might be. That's probably not going to happen. But in his career, it's a 219 batting average with a 605 OPS. I think that's always kind of going to limit his overall upside, at least in terms of batting average and on base and OPS and things like that. But when he's right, I mean, I think he still has the talent to steal 50 plus bases and hit 25 plus home runs. I think it's more likely than not this injury has really just kind of derailed Elly De La Cruz's season.